All right, let's talk control shortcuts in Excel. Boom. There you go, first shot. So in Excel, well, at least in my journey, I started as an intern at a company, and I had a teacher in college say, if you can learn every Excel shortcut, you can have a leg up and be the LeBron James of Excel. So in my college internship, I would go and do my tasks really quickly, and then I would pull up this PDF. It was like 250 shortcuts for Excel. Um, anyways, every time I would do something more than once, I would go through and I would Control F in the browser, and I would type like insert row, insert column. So over time, I learned how to do this stuff really well. And to get really good at Excel shortcuts specifically, I think a good way to bucket it is like you have your control shortcuts and you have your alt keys. And alt keys are what really opens up, moving really quickly. You see people, they don't use a mouse. But I think for anyone, control shortcuts are what drives, uh, like, just, it can take you from like beginner to intermediate. And as far as like using the tool. So the basic way to start is, right, if I'm holding control, right, and I hit down, it moves me to the end of the page. Hit to the right, down, up, left, down, up, right. Like, you can move all around. Oh no, I'm at the end. Control home takes you to this top A1. That alone, for me, I can do that in my sleep. Like, that's just how I use the computer. I get into an Excel thing and I'm doing all this stuff. Yeah. So it's something that just comes to you over time. There's some really cool ones though when you're just looking at basic control shortcuts. So let's see if I can find. I'm going to pull in some test data that I had ChatGPT create, and we're just going to mess around with it. So no idea what it's going to give me. Boom. Oh wow, that looks pretty rough. This is not a control shortcut, but it's my favorite. So Alt will trigger the ribbon at the top. So Alt PVG, it takes away grid. So that's something I do every time. I just hit Control A, and that allows me to select an entire data section. Control space will select a column. Shift space selects the row. So I'm going to do some things here in a second to clean this up, and I'll go back and walk through it. But there's a couple things about this data that I copied in. Centering in the cells. On the left column, it's right aligned. In column F, the width is too short, so it's showing you like the number sign and not the date. I might add borders. I'm also going to undo the wrap text in row 2. I will also delete column A and row 1. Personally, I like them, but for the sake of the shortcuts, let's just go. All right. There we go. We'll add them back. There you go. You can see it didn't do that first ID. I guess it was hidden when I copied it in. So when I did the autofill width, it brought it back in. So that was kind of a crash course on what you could do with it. Let's take a step back and do it all over in slow motion. I'm just going to hit Control Z a bunch of times. All right, no data. Now there's data. All right, so Control Spacebar selects the column. Control minus deletes the column. So that same logic applies on this top row. So I like to think of Shift as long ways, right? My head, Control is column, and Shift, it's kind of like hamburger hot dog. Shift is the width. So Shift Spacebar plus Control minus takes away those columns. Control A will select this entire chart. And this is a super useful tool because like you could get a data set that looks like this, right? You know the columns are there, but you want to turn something around really quickly. You need to look at it. I hit Control A, Alt H O I. That's how I go in and kind of get the data back to where I can read it and work with it. A couple things in this data set that are kind of funky is I'm noticing the wrap text. So if you were to come up here, it'd be right here. You can see it's highlighted. I actually use Alt keys to do this, but when I share, it doesn't show the ribbon. So you can see it's selecting that top home, and then I hit H, and on your side, you see like all of the buttons. That's what opens up all the shortcuts. So Alt HW is wrap text, and you can see it went away, which is great. But there's some things going wrong. I'm sure you've seen people that go in, they do this. We aren't using a mouse. So Control A, Alt HOI, it's going to autofit width. Alt HOA is autofit height, but it's like you would use that here. Well, maybe not. See, the rep text is still there because I only did certain sections. So let's turn it off for everything, and it goes away. All right. What else do we want to do? I don't like grid lines, so Alt PVG. We're just going to add those grid lines in there. And last but not least, Alt HH takes you to the highlighter, and Alt HFC is font color. So now you have kind of a formatted table. Let's do one more thing. Alt HAC. Let's just make everything in the center. All right, cool. That was super easy, right? There's a couple cool formulas I really like. So Shift F11 creates a new tab. So another control shortcut that you could use is Control Page Up and Page Down. Alt Tab is another shortcut, but that works, that works on your computer with all of your programs, whereas Control Page Up moves within the Excel workbook. So if I had another one up, I could Alt Tab between different programs on my computer. This is all PC. Personally, Excel is much better with the PC just because you have access to the Alt keys. But there are a lot of shortcuts on the Mac side of the house. I think you typically replace Control with Command in most cases. But then in some cases, Control still works. So I think it's Command A and then Control plus or minus. I don't know. I have both, but I prefer to use PC when I'm building in Excel. Cool. I think that's the crash course.